Welcome back for another video. We're back with the team selection video fresh off the back as the last game week's just wrapped up. We're going to look ahead to game week 15, my lineup this week and transfer plans. Starting off with a quick look how the last game week went then. 58 points all out, not enough for a green arrow, so I dropped to about 268k. A few surprises with Gabriel not in the squad for Arsenal, Porro benched as well for Spurs, though I largely dodged all the rotation chaos of Wednesday's games. Captain Palmer scoring a much needed goal, as Salah hauled against Newcastle with 2 goals and an assist to put him on 151 points for the season. That's the most anyone's ever been on at this point. Thankfully Vardy was back in the City team at least, and he kept a clean sheet as their dreadful run came to an end. I wasn't anticipating needing the bench with so many reliable starters on paper, but Van Hecke was required. He did lose his clean sheet minutes into the Fulham game as well after a poor pass from Verbruggen, and he was later booked as well before coming off early. Let's have a quick look at your biggest highs and lows of the week then. Sway says, game week 11 to game week 14 disaster class. Sold Strand Larsen for João Pedro when he got his brace. And he did the infamous Isak to Jackson switch this week, which I think many did. An unfortunate swing how that one played out, as Isak went on to get 1 goal, 1 assist against Liverpool. Packham scored a crazy 92 points. Got returns from Henderson, Mikalenko, Timber, Rogers, Salah, Palmer, João Pedro and Haaland. Fair play. FPL Wums finished on 32 points. Palmer's goal and João Pedro and Haaland's assist, the only returns of his team in the game week, got 0 from 8 Nori. Or finished on 34 actually, with Lewis and Greaves subbing on for Jackson and Foden. Dibbling was suspended on the bench, so ended up with 10 players. And Matthews sent in his back 3, the infamous 0-point triple up. Gabriel, 8 Nori and Colwell with nothing between them. Hopefully he had a decent auto sub, though obviously the way that game week went, you'd be lucky. Onto the team for game week 15. It's another promising week for the Arsenal defence. They're second on the clean sheet odds this week, given a 40% chance, playing away at Fulham. They've crept up the expected goals conceded standings in recent weeks. They were sitting about 7th a month ago, and now they're up to 2nd with 14.16 expected goals conceded, just behind Liverpool. So the defensive double-up does look really strong for a while. My back 3 is Gabriel, Vardy and Van Hecke. So yeah, it could be a good week to double up if Gabriel plays. I did make a conscious effort to have some good depth for this month, which has been a bit of a talking point in the lead up to the December schedule in the recent videos. You never know when you're going to need that bench, whether it's injuries or rotation. If he does miss out again, I do have decent cover. Last game it was chaos. Jackson, Trent, Ederson, Foden, Rico Lewis, Luis Diaz, Colwell, Sanchez etc. all not starting. And that was just on Wednesday. I managed to dodge all of those, but I did get caught out by Porro's unexpected benching. It was a relief to see Vardy start, and he obviously kept the clean sheet, and I'm hoping that continues. He came incredibly close to scoring against Forest as well, 2 really decent chances, 0.56 expected goals for him that game. This could be his last week in the team though, and while I really rate Vardy, I just rate Trent even higher, so I'm considering that swap in game week 16. Hopefully he can leave a parting gift away at Palace. Man City are joint 3rd on the clean sheet probabilities, given a 37.5% chance this week. Liverpool and Arsenal, the 2 teams above them for game week 15. Next week, Liverpool, Villa, Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea, Man United and Spurs all have European football to juggle as well, which can only add to potential rotation chaos. Brighton are just below City on the clean sheet odds with a 34% chance, so Van Hecke comes back into the team playing away at Leicester. There's a choice between playing Porro home to Chelsea or Van Hecke away at Leicester. It is quite close since Porro is so much more attacking, but I'm going to go with Van Hecke. A couple of game weeks ago I sort of regret going for Van Hecke over Colwell as Chelsea kept a clean sheet against Villa, and then Colwell obviously got benched last match in the end anyway, and this week Van Hecke's got the better fixture for a clean sheet, so perhaps it'll even out. Let's move on to the midfield, which is Bowen, Palmer, Saka, Salah and Semenyo. I think it's a great week to buy Semenyo or Evan-Nilsson. It's the 5th best team for expected goals this season versus the 3rd worst team for expected goals conceded. Ipswich have managed just 1 clean sheet this season, giving up a big chance every 25 minutes on average. Only Southampton fare worse in that respect. If I was picking between Semenyo and Rogers, it would be Semenyo. Not much separates them in price first of all, but Semenyo is just simply more attacking, with more than twice as many shots in the box this season, 37 versus 15. Palmer captainers can count themselves a bit unlucky last game week. He registered 2.15 expected goal involvement, which is more than any player, and more than double that of Salah's actually, more shots than Salah. He has got a haul coming in him soon, but this week he gets the vice captaincy. I think game week 16 is going to be a big opportunity to go against Salah with Palmer home to Brentford, although Salah is home to Fulham. Current thoughts are I'll be likely to go for it to try and climb up the ranks. I did enjoy Palmer's post after the Southampton game. On Instagram he said, "Sorry to Nkunku for stealing his goal," and he said, "But my FPL managers needed me." So Salah gets the captaincy this week. I'm running out of ways to describe just how ridiculously good he is right now, but I've got another stat for you. He's the fastest player ever to 150 points, doing it in 14 games. That's never been done before. The previous record was also Salah, who did it in 15 games. He's done it in 20 games twice before as well, including that season actually, that he set the all-time points record with 303. He needs to average 6.4 points per game for the remainder of the season to break that all-time record previously set by himself. He's currently averaging 10.8 per game. It's the Merseyside derby as well, which is always a gripping watch. Liverpool should be far too much for them to handle. There's almost a 20% difference in ownership between Saka and Palmer. Obviously not complaining, but Saka's practically having an equally good season so far as points anyway, just 6 points separating them. Salah just completely miles ahead here on the overall point standings. If you're not on the premium midfield triple up right now, it's really hard to argue against that being the sweet spot and where you want to go to in terms of current form and fixtures. FPL always evolves through the season though, doesn't it? I mean, at the start of the season, Haaland was on fire when he got something like 10 goals in 5, but it's completely flipped now. Who knows, before we know it, maybe Haaland could be a factor again, but right now, this midfield trio feels comfortable. Will this week mark the Bowen redemption arc after that bitterly disappointing blank, despite showing so much promise? There's rumours Lopetegui could be out soon, and Potter's among the names being rumoured to replace him. I wouldn't mind some new manager bounce anyway if it happens. West Ham versus Wolves, the movable object versus the stoppable force. I'm hoping for a boatload of goals in this one, because I'm lined up with the Wolves double up front, Strand Larsen and Cunha. I mean, one of the worst performances I've ever seen from Wolves at Everton, it has to be said. It's a bit of a gamble having both, but they've done pretty well in honesty. Cunha with a couple of double-digit hauls while I've had him, and Strand Larsen of course with that praise. No plans to sell them with these next 3 fixtures, West Ham, Ipswich and Leicester, after which point I'll pivot my attack in a new direction. I'm not sure who I'll go to yet, or how I'll actually get there, but Jackson and Solanke are the 2 names I'm interested in. Is it a mistake benching Wood, and who would you start him over realistically? My bench this week is going to be Fabianski, Wood, Pedro Porro and Greaves. If it be anyone, I think it'd have to be Strand Larsen to the bench for Wood, but he's away at West Ham, on paper a better fixture than away at Man United. If anyone does miss out, then it's pretty solid depth this week of Wood and Porro anyway. Obviously the worst case scenario is someone gets a cameo off the bench in my team that I've started. I don't think there's any way any of the midfield gets benched in my team anyway, they're all their respective team's talismans. So as far as transfer plans, the team doesn't need a move this week, so the plan is to roll the transfer. I mentioned that I was looking to buy Trent in gameweek 16, so to talk about that early now, there's a couple of ways I'm considering getting there. Option 1 is Wood to Rao and then Vardy to Trent. I'm not a huge fan of Rao though, but he does have Southampton home in gameweek 17, then he's got Chelsea, followed by some more nice games once again. Problem is he does come off early regularly, and he was benched in Fulham's game against Brighton, though that could have been a similar story to what happened with Jackson, still first choice. The other option is Pedro Porro to Colwill and then Vardy to Trent. This lets me keep Wood, who's obviously better than Rao in my opinion. The trade-off is I'd lose Porro before he's got Southampton away. I mean, I could just keep rolling and delay Trent until after the Spurs game and buy him for Leicester home in game week 18. I'm not too worried by the Colwill benching. He'd played every single minute up until last game week, and it was blatantly a game that Maresca could rotate in, and he saw this from a mile off and did exactly that, and the unsurprisingly still won comfortably. So yeah, the core of the team is there. It's the likes of Bowen, Strand Larsen and Cunha that I'm going to have to focus on once their fixtures turn in a few weeks and work out the best direction to pivot to. Going Jimenez to fund Trent might be the wrong way to go. I can't afford João Pedro by the way, it's got to be 5.6 million or cheaper if I sell Wood. I'm not opposed to holding on to Wood either, so maybe I'll go the other route. So that's the team. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed the video. The experts video will be out on Friday morning and the plan is to go live on Saturday for the deadline. See you soon for the next one.